Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with Week 18, aka the final week of the regular season. And last week was not a good week. I went 9-7, but because I forgot to submit my picks to ESPN Pick'ems, I will not know what my regular season record is. But yeah, we reached the final week of the season. And I do apologize if this video is a little late because, but I told myself since there's no Thursday night football, I was able to delay it in some ways. But anyway, let's look at how the AFC playoffs look right now. So far, Jacksonville, Buffalo, Chargers, and the Houston Texans have all clinched playoff spots, while the Broncos and Patriots have clinched their divisions this past week. There are and there's still one spot in the AFC left, and we'll get into that game in a bit. As for the NFC, only the NFC West have clinched their playoff spots, except for the Cardinals, but they were eliminated. And the Packers have clinched with the Lions losing last week. And only the Eagles and Bears have clinched their playoff spots. Only clinched divisions. The number one seed is still up in the air, and yeah, that's what we got going on for this week. So before I get into the predictions, let me just say let's do things a little different. Instead of me going in order based on what time the games are being played, I'm gonna sort all the games from least important to most important, with the most important game being the last game of this video. So on to the unimportant stuff first, and we'll try and breeze through these pretty quickly. And the least important game of the week is the Cleveland Browns taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Browns last week got a win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Myles Garrett did not get the sack record. I think that was what the Steelers were more concentrated on. But I think he'll take the win over the sack record any day. While the Cincinnati Bengals got a pretty impressive win over the Arizona Cardinals, it's showing why Zach Taylor needed to keep his job for another three years. Now this game, again, not important. I'm just going to be brief with it. I'm picking Cincinnati. They're going to win on pride. Myles Garrett, okay, I don't know if he's going to get that sack record or not. He probably will. I think Joe Burrow might give him a hand it to me sack. And the second unimportant game of the season of this week, we have the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. And the only reason why this game is very low on this ranking is because the Packers will be resting starters. They're locked in at the 7th seed. And the Vikings, well, they're already eliminated. And I don't know who's starting at quarterback for them. But anyway, the Vikings were able to eliminate the Detroit Lions, actually giving them a season sweep at that. And the Packers lost to the Baltimore Ravens, where they had to trot out Clayton Tune when Malik Willis went down. He's probably going to be getting the start in this one. I'm not expecting Jordan Love. I'm not expecting none of the Packers starters in this one. And if J.J. McCarthy plays, I'm definitely taking the Minnesota Vikings to get the win. But if Max Brosmer's starting, I might second guess that. Next up is the Dallas Cowboys taking on the New York Giants. And for this game, the reason why this is above the last two mostly involve the Giants. As with them winning last week, I'm not going to say they're out of the number one race, but they're going to need a ton of help if they want that number one overall pick. I think draft position is the only reason why this game is above the last two. But anyway, both teams actually got wins. Cowboys beat the Commanders. Giants beat the Raiders, especially when they really didn't want to. And I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys to win because the Giants are going to do everything in their effort to lose this game. And then we have a meaningless AFC West matchup. And again, it's higher because of if the Raiders lose, the number one pick is theirs. And the Kansas City Chiefs is a sinking ship that lost to the Denver Broncos on Christmas Day. Raiders, on the other hand, likely going to play Kenny Pickett in this one. So this game might be a game of the times. And because of that, picking this one is actually harder than you think. Harder you may guess. Because I could see the Chiefs purposely trying to lose this game to spite the Raiders. And that will cause chaos. But since the Raiders is the epitome of trash, I can't go against the Chiefs, even if picking the Raiders in this is more intriguing than you think. And then, of all the games that don't involve playoff teams, this one might be the most important, as the New Orleans Saints will be taking on the Atlanta Falcons. The Saints, 4 wins in a row, beating the Tennessee Titans. They'll be taking on Atlanta Falcons, who are also on a meaningless win streak. And I know the Falcon fans, they're pretty frustrated, saying, why can they win like this during the season? Because they were able to beat the Rams on Monday Night Football. And I think the Falcons are going to get a nice little boost with Chris Olave being out. That's going to be something to keep your eye on. But why is this game so important? Because if I think rather win or lose for that Panthers-Bucks game, if the Falcons win, the Panthers are in the playoffs. And with Olave being out, I am going to take the Falcons to win this game and to close the season off right. And that's how Carolina's going to get into the playoffs. I should be putting Carolina in this spot as well, but we'll talk about them in a minute. And then we got the New York Jets taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Jets losing last week to the New England Patriots, and the Bills, they had opportunities to beat the Eagles. I'll say that, but they weren't able to. And ladies and gentlemen, we've made it. This will be the final game in Ralph Wilson Stadium. I know it's called Highmark Stadium, but I'm still calling it the Ralph. They played here for almost 5 decades, and they'll be moving into a new building for the 2026 season. An open-air grass stadium. Ralph had a lot of memories. The stadium saw 4 straight trips to the Super Bowl and 4 straight defeats in the Super Bowl. They saw the era of Josh Allen, and I know the fans, they're going to come out and show out. And that's why I don't think the Bills are going to rest their starters. This team needs some momentum going into the postseason, especially as a wild card team. And with their passing offense not being that great this year, and Josh Allen trying to be in God mode every single game, I think the Bills are going to give this stadium the proper send-off. Ralph, it's been a real one. And it takes us right into the Los Angeles Chargers and Denver Broncos. And if the Broncos win, the number 1 seed is there. And they're going to get a lot of help because the Chargers will be resting their starters as they're locked into wild card territory. But the seeding wise, in terms of wild card, that's going to be to be determined. I think if they lose, which let me just go ahead and say it, the Chargers are going to lose this game. I think they're going to fall to the 7th seed, which means they're likely going to New England. And for the Broncos, I know they're playing for the number 1 seed. I got them easily getting the win. It's not going to be close. But let's just say if the Broncos lose this game, if New England wins against the Miami Dolphins, then New England gets the number 1 seed. So last week the Dolphins were able to get a stunning victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Patriots beat the Jets like it was 2013. And come on now, Dolphins in the cold, New England at home. Patriots should take care of business in this one. And then let's go to the NFC, because there's some seeding that still needs to be figured out. First, they got the Commanders taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Commanders, they're pretty much playing ball boys and janitors at this point, losing to the Dallas Cowboys. Although they did show some effort in that game. They'll be taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, where sure they won against the Bills, but I don't think anyone in that city is really pleased about it. They only, because you and I, who make predictions, contemplating life decisions, had more passing yards than the Philadelphia Eagles did in the second half. Yes, and that might be their downfall heading into the postseason. Eagles are also not rest. Eagles are resting their starters this week, which is a pretty gutsy move given that this team could move up to the number 2 seed if the next game goes array. That next game that I'm going to talk about goes array. And even if the Eagles are playing the B squad, I'm still going to take them to win this game. Only because Washington is just too battered to do anything. And for some reason, I think the Cardinals and Los Angeles Rams have more importance than you may think. I mean, not for the Cardinals, as they continue to lose every single game. But for the Rams, they're playing for mostly seeding in the wild card. Right now, they're trying to get to. They can still get as high as the 5th seed, according to according to the playoff rankings, if the 49ers were to lose. Now, if they win, they're going to be in the 6th seed. So the 5 and 6 seed is what the Rams are playing for. I do believe they need to play their starters because, man, their momentum has faded fast. Is this what happens when Davante Adams gets out? But I still got them winning this game against the Cardinals. I am going to take them. I'm going to take them on that scenario. But hopefully Davante Adams come back before to make their playoff run. Because if they do, the Rams might be one of the dangerous wild card teams out there. And then we have the Detroit Lions taking on the Chicago Bears. And this game is important because the Bears, if all they got to do is win, and the 2 seed is there, and we get a NFC North date with the Green Bay Packers. But if they lose, which I ain't gonna lie, I can't see that happening, then the Philadelphia Eagles will get that 2 seed. So there's a lot at stake in this one. For the Bears, they had a hard-fought game against the 49ers, but they ended up coming up short because their defense was, let's be real, not good. Detroit Lions, they're not in the playoffs, and honestly, that was a pretty surprising statement that I just made. Detroit Lions are not going to the playoffs this year. And this game being played outdoors in the cold in Chicago, even though I can't see Detroit winning this game, I do think they can. Actually, do think they could surprise people. I'm gonna take the Bears in a close one. I think this is gonna be one of the better Week 18 matchups of the week, because yeah, the Bears have a lot to play for. And now on to the AFC South and the importance of this game. All the Jaguars got to do, win, and the AFC South is theirs. And now there is a tight scenario where they could get the number 1 seed if the Broncos and the New England Patriots both somehow lose. But since I don't see that happening, they're likely going to have to settle for the 3rd seed. And playing the Titans, who, again, I've been saying it for weeks, they have gotten better. I think Jacksonville is going to take care of business. They may or may not cover that 13-point spread, but I'm still going to take Jacksonville to win this game. But if Jacksonville was to somehow slip up against the Tennessee Titans, then the door could be open for the Houston Texans to take this spot. They're taking on a collapsing Colts who lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they'll be playing Riley Leonard for this game just to put something on tape. Boy, this was a different season. The team that started off 8-2 currently sits at 8-8. And for this game, Texans, they're red hot. They got my attention. I think they're one of the scarier teams going into the postseason. Give me the Texans. They're peaking at the right time. And now on to the 3 most important games of the week. First off, we have the Carolina Panthers taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Panthers suffered a pretty bad home loss to the Seattle Seahawks, while the Bucs suffered a pretty bad road loss to the Miami Dolphins. And in this game, these two teams played each other 2 weeks ago, which the Panthers were able to get the win over the Bucs, 23-20. And honestly, both of these teams really do not deserve to be in the playoffs, because especially on how they've been playing. And I'm looking right at Tampa Bay. Tampa has lost what 5 straight. I don't think they won a single game in the month of December. Granted, I know they've been dealing with injuries, but now the players, they're back. Some of the players that are injured, they came back. And for the Panthers, they're woefully inconsistent. And looking at this game, the scenario is this. If the Panthers win, they're in. They don't have to worry about that Falcon game that we predicted earlier. But if the Bucs win, even if the Bucs win, if the Falcons somehow beat the Saints, they're still out of the postseason. It's one of the more craziest scenarios I've ever seen. And in this one, I'm going upset. I'm taking the Carolina Panthers to get the road win in Tampa Bay. That way, I don't have to worry about the Falcons getting the playoff spot. Falcons winning. They could just cruise on, get an NFC South division title, the first of theirs in a decade, and they could lose in the wild card round like men. In this game, honestly, this one should be my game of the week. But we got the Seattle Seahawks taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Seahawks, speaking of the Seahawks, went on the road, beat the Carolina Panthers, while the 49ers had a good home victory over the Chicago Bears. And this game is important because whoever wins this game will get the number 1 seed in the playoffs. Yep, that's what's at stake. The number 1 seed. And that means my preseason prediction about the 49ers might come true. But for this one, given that I'm just going to base this on how bad the 49er defense played against the Bears. I know they've been dealing with injuries all season long. But I heard they got some good news that Fred Warner, if the team make a deep playoff run, he could come back. But in this game, I'm going to take Seattle slightly. But let me just say, I am not confident in that prediction. And last but not least, the game of the week. The only true win or go home scenario. We have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. In Baltimore, they could thank the football gods that they're in this position, because they were able to beat the Green Bay Packers on the road with a backup quarterback, and Derrick Henry going into God mode. But because the Pittsburgh Steelers lost to the Cleveland Browns, that gave them new life. In Pittsburgh, you show how bad that offense was without DK Metcalf, and now they're going to be without Darnell Washington as he broke his arm. Now, whoever wins this game, they're not going to make a deep playoff run. I'm just going to put that out there. And I could lean towards the Pittsburgh Steelers because they are at home. They do have the elements on their side. But at the same time, the Baltimore Ravens, they are going to have Lamar Jackson back for this one. And if they run the ball like they did against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they could cause some trouble in the AFC. I've really gone back and forth, but I end up settling with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think BS is going to win the day. I think the defense is going to clamp down on the Ravens offense. And I mean, that's just my take. Offensively, I don't think they're going to be a factor. I'm expecting a low-scoring game. And I'm just going to roll with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're also at home. And they'll play the wild card game at home. That's my take. And that pretty much wraps up Week 18 NFL predictions. So tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Gamble safely. I hope y'all had a happy new year. and I'll see you next time.